Welcome, everybody. I am going to do a little series to help you to at least make headway with seeing a chart that we might do for you. And a lot of you don't understand what Vedic astrology is about. We have our channel now where we're starting to make little videos, some of them AI, some of them me. And really, we really want you to get the most out of a reading with us and also to inspire you along the way. Each reading someone has many rabbit holes you can go down yourself. So today, just to start to land you into the space, I'm going to do a very quick introduction as to how a Vedic South Indian chart looks and just a few things about it. And then we're going to keep making little videos like this. I'm also going to do it for the dream spell and the Mayan calendars so that you can start to just get a little bit of a feel for it. Please understand that these little videos do not take over the need to see a real astrologer for your work and to get things clarified. Anything that I speak about in these introductory videos, down the line, when we go into deeper depth, you might find that there would be a little bit of a contradiction. For instance, in Western astrology, a lot of people say, oh, I'm a Virgo or I'm a Leo, and they're talking usually about their sun sign. And we have to start somewhere with any sort of form of astrology. But when we start to develop our knowledge, we start to realize, actually, I'm not just that. And actually, sometimes even the strong points I think about that sign are afflicted or are challenged, or they don't come up as strongly for me as they might for somebody else. So this is to help you to start to understand the language, okay? Because then you can flow with what we're speaking about more easily. I think with any sort of new study, there's often a lot of new vocabulary, and people get very overwhelmed. And it's very interesting. We have a lot of people who come for readings and they just are able to immerse in what we explain to them. And some people go kind of crazy because they want us to explain every single little word. And we would take months just to do that. But this is why a reading can be very, very economical for you, especially if you use that oracle that is called Google, okay? Because yes, it won't be as accurate, and neither will ChatGPT. These things will not be the same as when an astrologer is really looking at the contexts together and channeling and really in connection with their beings and hopefully the rishis. So, and I see sometimes people trying to override what an astrologer's told them by asking ChatGPT and thinking ChatGPT has it wrong or right, sorry. And something I've noticed, and I know others of you have noticed, is that AI is really quite wonky with dates. So sometimes it'll tell me that 2021 is next year, and it's actually 2026 when I'm making this video. So be careful, okay? And that's why we're going to just give you some fundamentals today, and then I'm going to make some other intro videos. And if you like this, it'll help you get context for if you come to us or another astrologer for a reading. Okay. So I just want to really call upon and give gratitude to the rishis, the celestial bodies, who really help to bring forth this sacred knowledge. And I just want to connect to Ganesha, the patron deity of Jyotish, the science of light. Om Shrim Ganganapataye Namaha. Om Shrim Ganganapataye Namaha. Om Shrim Ganganapataye Namaha. Okay. So I decided we'd do Donald Trump because I think that pretty much everybody on the planet who might ever be watching something like this probably knows who Donald Trump is. And it's not going to be a reading today of Donald Trump, but I just thought, actually, for me, what I do want to say is I think that in Donald Trump's first presidency, I saw and was horrified, I think, like a lot of people, a lot of crazy environmental decisions he made. And looking at his dream spell chart really helped me because I feel that Donald Trump's one of these very interesting figures who I call him like the Joker in the pack, okay? And there's this kind of insane wisdom in the in the comedy. That's, I think, very serious for people who live in the States. So when we watch from afar, there's some strange medicine in Donald Trump, okay? And that's I think that, I'm learning to see it from a like not such a contracted, dualistic way and to see that it's part of a bigger picture, like everything is, and that Donald Trump is playing a role at a very important point in time. And looking at this chart can really help us sometimes just to remember that, again, even when we look at serial killers or people like Hitler, yes, we'll often see very challenged parts of their chart, which may have led them to commit atrocities, but often you'll also see some really interesting things. And we have to remember that everybody here on the planet right now is part of a collective field. And the more we start to have empathy for each other, the more we can expand into a broader lens of understanding, the less we suffer with these things. And I'm not saying that people should make bad decisions for the environment or anything like that, but in the eyes of the divine, there is a plan, okay? Or the karma of things. This is our karma to have this sort of situation at the moment. And I think it causes many people to think. So, anyway, I'm not going to go into lengthy discussion on Donald Trump's personal astrology today, but this is a Vedic South Indian chart, okay? And there are also North Indian charts, but we work with the Southern Indian. And I just really want you to look a little bit. And this software that we're using is Parashara's Light, okay? And a lot of people who teach me and I get readings from, they use this software too. But there are quite a few good softwares out there. Oh, I've made myself go away. Okay, you can see me sort of at the top of the screen. Okay, so you can see my lips moving, okay? Because I can't seem to get it back. Okay, that's what I have. Oh, here we go. Yeah, sorry. It's early morning. I wanted to make this. So it's not the most professional thing today, but we'll make more. If people watch these, I'll make them better. Okay? Yeah. So here we go. Okay, so this is the chart. And first off, everything's going round clockwise. Okay. So, and each of these is one of the houses, and most of these colored bits, anything that's in color, even K2 here, which is in kind of dark brown and moon and black, these things are all, you don't need to look at AL, BP, or GK. These things are all planets or the karmic nodes, Rahu and Ketu. And as you'll see on our channel, we've already got a video about Rahu and Ketu, and we have others available. And also as we progress, there are going to be little baby level videos about the planets, the grahas. So, for any of you who have studied Western astrology, we usually begin at Aries, okay? And the order of the houses. So it's going first house, second house, third house, and so forth. There are 12. And we begin at Aries and we go, and Aries is actually here, okay? So this is always Aries, always, always, always is Aries. So if you see anything in this, Donald Trump doesn't have anything in this branch of astrology. This is Aries, he's got nothing in it, okay? Which I have even something to say along the lines later, okay? So first we have Aries, then we have Taurus, then Gemini, then Cancer, then Leo, then Virgo, then Libra, then Scorpio, then Sagittarius, then Capricorn, Aquarius, and finally Pisces. And everything is telling a story. So even if we just know that everything is like a birth and everything is following a kind of spiritual unfolding, it tells us a story. Okay, so for instance, Aries is like where everything's born. Okay, it's got quite a fiery energy, brings in things into being for sure. But it's also seen by many as the baby of the zodiac because it's there, it's kind of young, it's new, it's naive. Okay. And as we progress round, so we have to then see that our needs are met. And so Taurus is quite about having things, getting, getting stuff. To some degree, it's even about the first trading, the first agriculture, things like that. And then, of course, we may start if we start to learn how to have a cow, and then we make milk, and we maybe trade it with the next door neighbor. We then actually come to Gemini, and Gemini is a lot more about dealing with information, interaction, and we're starting to think about ourselves a little bit more in relation to others. And so this is why it's twins. And I'm not going to go into each of these in depth. I just really want to show you so that you can actually land with something that's so important about the zodiacal journey. Because this is something we'll see when we look at the nakshatras as well. It's like a beautiful poetic journey of the being from the material world, from birth as a human to the point of dissolution of this physical body as we merge into the spirit essence. So we also have Cancer, which is a lot about, our emotions, understanding our needs, all of those sorts of things, caring for others, empathy, kind of motherly pursuits in many ways. Then we have Leo, which is also, it's quite about leadership, quite creative. It can also be about children. It's quite interesting because Cancer is more about the mother energy, and Leo has this energy around romance, children. It's very creative, be good project manager, things like that. Virgo is a lot about our service in the world and our work, how we show up in our work. It can also be about things like enemies, competition, stuff like that. It's also about health and healing. And then when we get to Libra, Libra is all about, trying to balance things out. So it's really looking at how do we navigate our communities. And it's opposite the first house. And so the first house is all about who am I? The personality that shows up. And our personality is really just karma, but it is this sense of this is why the not even the planet, the placement here of what we call the ascendant, whatever your first house might be, because as we see, it's not Donald Trump's first house, okay? Donald Trump's first house is over here. He's Leo. And I think people know quite a lot about Leo. And so we can see, wow, yes, that makes a lot of sense that Donald Trump's a Leo, okay? So when we come from the first house, the first house is glancing opposite at the mirror that is the seventh house. And this is us in relationship to others. And that's why Libra people often are very into like humanitarian efforts. They want to seek to do things like conflict resolution. They're interested in interaction and harmonizing. That's why it's these scales. And there's something interesting that's taking place here with Libra because it's as we go into the interpersonal, suddenly a new state of being is also birthing. We have to all understand, the whole journey in life in this realm as we understand it. It's very much about working with the other, working with duality, the self and other. And it's interesting because once we get to that deep teaching, as we look at that mirror between first house and seventh house is a lot about relationships. So people will often look at that around romance or fame or things like that, our role in the public eye in some ways. The journey then from Libra into Scorpio brings up this deeper journey to the hidden depths. And as we know, Scorpio is seen as the most intense of these designations, and it can represent death. In some ways it's death of parts of the ego, death of understanding that we're just a material body, okay? So things can dissolve, and often this will spark up maybe an interest in the occult or the mystical things in life. So that journey is starting to unfold where life, death, possible rebirth are starting to come into awareness. Then we go to Sagittarius, and Sagittarius is quite driven in learning, higher learning, travel, these sorts of pursuits. So in a way, now where a lot of these things earlier were about, our interaction with the physical world, these higher aspects of learning and broadening our horizons beyond that which we think is conventional. Excuse me. These things are blossoming when we go into Sagittarius. Then Sagittarius goes to Capricorn, and Capricorn wants for a better world for sure. And it's quite determined, it's quite entrepreneurial. It's, Capricorn's like a goat, gets to the top. It can go through really crazy terrain and still manage to survive and thrive there. And in some ways, this represents some of the governance and structures of society, larger society as a whole, and making these offerings for people and succeeding in the material realm in quite a way. And then we come to Aquarius, which is quite a disruptor of the status quo. And Aquarius, again, these higher values of going beyond this conventional rules and norms and structures. It wants to break free from some of that, and it's really actively engaged in trying to find novel new ways to do things. It can be quite detached. So detachment is also something that is seen in a lot of spiritual journeys as not being so embroiled in what's going on in the physical world. And so Aquarius is really making that disruption as we then come to Pisces. And Pisces is very watery. It's very much about the dissolution of this fabricated reality and this concept of moksha, liberation from samsara, liberation from this hamster wheel that we go round and round in life. And of course, as it all goes round and round, it's almost like this is like the dissolution of things, that going into the deeper ethers, the deeper dream state. And then it's like we dream the next cycle into being, whether that be that we may believe in reincarnation or it's just a circuit. Every year the sun is moving round this. So, and for instance, right now when I'm making this, the sun happens to have gone into Aries and it's exalted there. So it's a lovely time actually for me to make this, even though I'm a little bit groggy. And yeah, it's just it's quite interesting because I'm on a cleanse right now. So it feels very interesting to be cleaning out, getting my energy optimized for the year. So that's why I'm a little bit groggy and I'm kind of otherworldly. I'm kind of Pisces Aries at the moment because I have life, death, rebirth going on within my system. So this is how, and so something to tell you is that if you've had your chart done for Western astrology, which we also call tropical astrology, you'll be thinking like, oh, if you look at your chart now, you will probably find that a lot of things are in a different sign because they're 23 degrees and 50 minutes approximately, or 23-ish degrees difference between the placements in tropical astrology and sidereal Vedic astrology. And this means that often, for instance, let me see something. So Donald Trump's ascendant would be very much on the cusp of Virgo and Leo, okay, which is interesting. So often, for instance, if somebody knows themselves to be star sign, a sun sign, Gemini, they might find out that it's actually Taurus in Vedic astrology. And this can sound a little bit disruptive. For instance, we've been spending all these years thinking we are something. And then suddenly somebody's telling us, just as we're getting used to that, somebody's telling us something different. And I used to dismiss a little bit the Vedic astrology, but something was rising within me as well because I could never quite learn Western astrology. I got it and I got the main principles, but it didn't sit with me the way Vedic astrology does. And that's probably just a soul level thing for me. And once I sat down with my Vedic charts, so much came to light. And actually, in sidereal astrology, we really are in relation to where the stars actually are at the moment. Okay. And this is all tied up with the concept of precession of the equinoxes and all sorts of calculations that were and weren't done between both systems and in each system in isolation over many years. And so it's a little bit of a rabbit hole. But what I want to say is that I believe there's a sacred reason for all astrological systems. We're all children of the divine. And that's why we work with holistic liberatory astrology, because we want to work beyond duality. I see a lot of people falling out because of their way of looking at things, which is why we have wars, is because people all think their way of looking at things is right. And for me, as somebody who knew my Western astrology and had sat with it for many years, when I really stopped being stubborn and started to really work with Vedic astrology, so much really came into my awareness. And something very special that I believe is for all of us, and this is another reason why we do holistic liberatory astrology, was that I started feeling more rich in my being because I started to realize I didn't have to be any one thing. Okay. So I realized how my Western chart, where parts of me show up within that. And then I suddenly realized how, on a deeper level for me personally, I felt like a deeper connection was coming through to my soul with my Vedic chart, which I was totally oblivious to until that. And how I like to look at it is that the Western chart in many ways shows us how we're kind of turning up in this crazy time and place. Because certainly my Western chart will speak to, quite a lot of my like intuitive sensibilities and sensitivities. So I'm quite sensitive energetically, and I'm quite psychically gifted in some domains, not all. And I'm quite an empath. And that wouldn't be so strongly pointed out in the Vedic chart. But actually, it was quite a liberation to not have to be so sensitive all the time and to think that that is just me. And so there are other really important building blocks in my Dharma that the Vedic chart really helped me to maximize and understand that I have those as well. Because fundamentally, the placement of planets is, of course, karma. But what we're here to do is to overcome karma, to become beyond this personality that we've been conditioned into. And this is one of the really great reasons to follow more than one system, because you start to not limit yourself by actually realizing that we are all of it, because we're all the divine. Okay. And yes, of course, we are all individuated by our karma, and that helps us to find certain things in life that we are going to do. But the more we can actually expand into this multifaceted way of being, the more enriched our life will be, and the less constrained we are by, oh, I have to just be this thing and I have to see myself as just this thing. So this is one of the reasons why I do recommend that if you haven't had a Vedic reading, that you might find that something amazing will come to light for you that you had maybe been underplaying in your life. And yeah, I find it so useful. And something that we have in Vedic astrology is the concept of remedies. And we're not going to talk about those today, but we are more actively involved in dancing with our karma and overcoming where we might have serious karmas that we're here to work with in this life. So being multifaceted and starting to weave with the different ways of reading a chart and understanding how you show up in that can be remarkably liberating for you. Okay. And I get it that sometimes people are just starting to learn the language of one system, and then they're like, what, you're trying to tell me I'm totally something else. I hear you. But one thing that I really want to end on is that there is something amazing and uncanny that whilst these placements can be 23 degrees-ish different from each other, the essence remains the same, and the essence is very different from person to person. So whilst I said earlier, oh yes, I don't have to be so sensitive, which is quite good for some things. I don't have to just be that sensitive person, right? When I'm looking at my Vedic chart, the overall encapsulation of who I am and the sort of things I might do remains the same. And that to me is one of the beauties and the real gifts of working with different systems, because this is what happens when we look at a dream spell chart, a traditional Mayan chart, is that again, it will echo through the systems. And finally, this is one of the reasons why we are so happy to do holistic liberatory astrology and work with three systems, because this triangulation of looking at somebody and finding those nuggets really help people to find their deeper dharma. And I think that in this time where people struggle to belong, they struggle to feel any sense of self. They feel so embroiled with what's being projected from the outer world onto them all the time, that when we can find some nuggets and anchors that come across the systems, that's the sort of foundations that we're needing right now to navigate this very destabilizing time. So there's the beginning, and we only tip of the iceberg, but now you know a little bit, and just to honor, this is going around, this is always a journey. And that everything, when we look at astrology, is this beautiful, beautiful quest in this body. And so, yeah, I'll be back soon. And we'll start to show you a few little markers along the way. For now, thank you for listening. And please do like and subscribe if you'd like to get more material. If we can get our viewership up, we will have more capacity to make more material. And we really want to help you on your journey. Okay. Gracias, gracias, gracias. Ciao, ciao.